Greetings, bloody sattvas. What is the future of American Zen? Apparently, someone has been asking me this question repeatedly. I found this out secondhand. I don't know, on some platform on the internet, X, YouTube, someone has been putting this question to me. Now, I wouldn't have answered it even if I had known I was being asked it, because the question, what is the future of American Zen, is a stupid question. Fortunately, I'm a stupid man, so I'm here for it. Now, the reason I say it's a stupid question is because it's interesting, which is to say it has nothing to do with you or your practice or your day-to-day life or the fundamental problem of suffering, which is the whole point of Zen Buddhism. It is, in fact, the very definition of a speculative matter, which is what Zen and Buddhism strongly advises us not to get stuck in. All that being said, I think asking the question, what is the future of Zen in America, forces us, or me anyways, to consider what Zen is at all. It's a slippery, slippery, slippery fish. It's so slippery a fish that it is actually slipperiness itself, shaped like a fish, if you know what I mean. Which is to say, you can't really pin Zen down. So let's look at three different cultures where Zen Buddhism has taken root, and these happen to be places where I have specifically firsthand experienced and practiced Zen. And I'm going to show you how different they are. Austria, Japan, California. Okay, let's start with Japan. The reason I want to do that is I found today this old, look at how beautiful this notebook is. I found this old notebook under my bed, like buried, dusty. Oh, what a treasure it is. It's got notes from my trip to Japan. After my Zen Buddhist teacher died, we took a trip there and we went to, I won't say where the temple is. It's a training monastic temple, and there were only about 4 or 5 monks there. And this is more often than not the case. It is not a flourishing practice in Japan. Okay, so we went to this training monastery. It's extremely difficult. They chant at light speed. There's hard tatami mats that you're kneeling on. No cushion of any kind. Chanting goes on for a few hours. Suddenly it ends immediately, and they all jump up, rush out of the sutra hall. They're sprinting down this tiny little hallway to a mini butsudan right by the kitchen, and they start like chanting. And I'm like just getting up and I'm running with my big clumsy gaijin body. I'm stumbling down the hall trying to follow these people. And my understanding is that little butsudan was for certain patrons of the temple who basically financially support it. And I had a friend of mine who recently got back from a 3.5-year monastic journey in Japan. And they are Japanese, and they are also American, and they went to Japan to do that full-on Rinzai Zen training in a monastery. And what they told me a little bit surprisingly cynically was there are lots of politics in Japanese Zen, and it's a funeral business. They told me Japanese Zen Buddhism is basically a father to son funeral business. You pass it on to your kin, and when somebody who is a patron of your temple dies or has a family member who dies, you perform a very elaborate ceremony for them, which goes on, sometimes right after the death, then 3 days after the death, then a week after the death, so on and so forth, sometimes up to, I think, like 7 years after the death. So this person told me it's a funeral business, right? So we saw that when we went to Japan, and our chanting in the sutra hall that day ended in front of this patron's butsudan. And when I went to different city temples in Japan, where there were different Rinzai Zen oshos, and I participated in their Sunday programs, there was almost no Zazen or sitting meditation. And in fact, this was something that I found again and again and again as we traveled around Japan, and we went to different Rinzai Zen Buddhist communities in different spaces, whether it was in the mountains in one space, whether it was in Hokkaido or Tokyo, all these different temples. There were community activities, there were these memorial services or chanting, a lot of ritual, but there wasn't a ton of just sitting and meditating. Whereas in America, I think we tend to think of Zen Buddhism as sitting and meditating. I will close my observations on Japanese Zen, which again are full disclosure, this is just my own personal experience. Within this monastic and spiritual culture in Japan that I've been talking about, really serious practice takes place. It has been taking place for centuries. And within a very few, rare places, you will grow a Roshi, a Zen master. And in my personal experience, these are incredible teachers. You know, the machinery of Rinzai Zen chugs on and on in Japan, at Zuiganji, the training monastery, at the big, huge temple complex in Kyoto, Myoshinji. And as my friend who trained there for 3 years told me, the politics is there's so much politics, this person told me. And they told me, as I said, it's like a funeral business, you know? But I don't know that, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you, because I don't know any other environment where a specific kind of teacher, a Japanese Rinzai Zen master, I know of no other environment that can grow that kind of a teacher. They're very rare. Mostly it's just monks taking over their dad's temples. But there is a context and a setting in place so that when the right person comes along, they can grow up out of all that, the murky, mucky, muddy swamp of bureaucratic Rinzai Zen. They can grow up out of that like the lotus flower and bloom on the surface. Is it worth it? I don't know. It's a good question. Thanks for asking it. I live in Vienna, Austria now. There is a Zen Buddhist group here run by an old friend of mine who's American. This friend took over this group from a legendary Austrian Osho. My experience of the Austrians really only makes sense when I talk about it in juxtaposition with my experience of the Californians. So Austria is a Catholic country. I don't know how many practicing Catholics there are, but it's a Catholic country. And as opposed to California, really, people here are more okay with rules, okay? They're more okay with everybody coming together, doing things a certain way. There's really a spirit here, more so than California, in my experience, of this is the way we do things, this is the way we've always done things, this is the way things are done, Doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. Doesn't matter if it's somewhat illogical. Doesn't matter if you want to do it your way. This is how we do it. And that's very different than the California spirit, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. But this teacher, this Osho, who started the Zen Center here many years ago, was reportedly quite ferocious. And I think in a lot of ways, his students followed his energy and did what he was telling them to do and trusted him in a way that I don't think American Zen students do. And I think there's a cultural difference there. And it's very strong. Like when I first came here, I was so touched by how sincere and with an almost childlike earnestness the students here would do the form, would master the form in the meditation hall. And they don't challenge your authority as a teacher or practice leader here, in my experience, the way they do, for example, in California. I mean, in California, it's like, I'll get to that. But there's, and this is good and this is bad. I mean, you can't just follow rules and and get Zen. Like it doesn't really work that way. So, I mean, I was told, I'm going to tell you two things. I'm not sure if either of these stories are true. They were told to me by the same person, an old Austrian monk. Okay, so I told you about that Austrian teacher that started the community here. Now, he was apparently in the Nazi army. He was recruited. He was pulled in. He was a young boy. He was like probably 15 or 16. He was pulled into the Nazi army. And in the Nazi army, he learned a bunch of, disciplinary techniques. Apparently, when this ex-Nazi Austrian came to the Mount Baldy Zen Center, studied with my teacher Joshu Sasaki Roshi. Joshu Sasaki Roshi said to him, "You seem like a pretty serious guy with some interesting mojo. Why don't you help me whip this monastery into shape?" Which they did together. Leonard Cohen said this was the revenge of the Japanese and the Austrians/Germans for World War II. And apparently, I don't know if this is true, some of the stuff that we wound up doing, my whole time at Mount Baldy, everybody's whole time at the Mount Baldy Zen Center, was stuff that was gotten from the SS Nazi army. I don't know if that's true. Second thing I was told was one time this Osho was yelling at a student to do something in the dining hall. And the student who was also German or Austrian, I don't know which, didn't know what he was talking about. And the teacher was pointing at him and yelling, and the guy was holding his bowl, and he didn't know what he was supposed to do. He was doing some type of form wrong. And so finally, the student took the bowl that he was holding and dumped the food in his lap. His thinking was, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in this situation, but I know I've done something wrong. It's getting worse and worse and worse. I'm just going to punish the hell out of myself right now, and that will make the situation okay. And he spilled his bowl in his lap. And what that story has always illustrated for me is a kind of almost, we could generously call it extreme humility in the heart of the Austrian and the German practitioner. There's a willingness to follow the teacher wherever they go and no matter what they say. Whereas in Japan, it seems to me that there's a big, huge system. It's like a buzzing beehive. They're all one big hive. This Austrian spirit is more, of course there's a hierarchy in Japan too, but this Austrian system, it feels to me like it's more set in place. Everybody's roles, the hierarchy, and everybody has their place and they follow the leader, much more so than in California. Now we come to America and California. California is the wild, wild West. And I mean, America is this land of individuality, and it's really hard to see it if you live there. I never really got it until I moved to Austria. Generally speaking, in California, in America in general, you swim against the stream. You go against the tide. You manifest Ralph Waldo Emerson's self-reliance. So when I was trying to offer Zazen instruction to people when I was the administrative abbot at our temple in Los Angeles, I found it to be really hard, really hard. People who would come in from the cold, as it were, looking for some kind of spiritual guidance, they had sexy yoga teachers in their head. They had cool punk rock, Vipassana meditation teachers full of tattoos in their head. They had very gentle, open, kind of new agey massage, spa, mindfulness retreats in their head, right? Like there's so much on offer in Los Angeles and in California and in America that it's really hard. I found really hard to try and tell people that Zazen is just sitting. There's no mantra. There's no teaching you have to get. There's no koan you have to pass. There's no prayer you have to say. There's no list of things you have to know. There's no teacher whose Shakti pot you have to receive. It's just sitting. And when I was at the monastery and I was the head monk in Southern California, honestly, I was just quelling one student rebellion after another. They called me the Little Kaiser because I was trying to maintain discipline in that community. I was my teacher's lieutenant. He was the general, I was the lieutenant. The lieutenant has to do all the dirty work. And it was dirty. I didn't like to do it. I don't like telling people what to do. But the only way this monastery was going to function was if somebody was the bad guy and rustled all of these highly individualistic, let's face it, pretty egotistical Americans into one room and got them to follow the rules and make the monastery life happen. So if in my experience, the Japanese surrender to the lineage and the tradition and perhaps don't oftentimes put their full individual hearts into the practice and the teachings, and the Austrians surrender to the person at the top of the hierarchy, the person with the title of Osho, the person with the robes, then the Americans don't respect nobody. The teacher and the practice leaders are people temporarily occupying positions that if they, the student, can get enlightened, they will take those positions. So I think it's hard sometimes. I notice this in myself and in other Americans. It's hard to see somebody who is, let's just say, the embodiment of, or the example of what you're supposed to be within the lineage, and not covet that position and think that it's your job to stand side by side with that person at some point. Like you feel like you're a failure if you're not doing that. America's a success culture. So what then is the future of Zen in America? The reason I've gone into such crazy detail in Japanese, Austrian, and Californian Zen is to kind of demonstrate or illustrate that slippery fish principle. Zen changes, in my experience, a lot depending on the context, depending on where it's practiced, by whom it's practiced, how it's practiced. I'm not even sure I know what Zen is outside of its specific manifestations in, say, Myoshinji Kyoto, Japan, or here in Vienna at the Bodhidharma Zendo or the Mount Baldy Zen Center in America. I mean, in many ways, the practice, the feel, the manifestation and expression is so different in each place. It feels like an entirely different religion, an entirely different spiritual practice. So to say, what is Zen going to look like in the future in America is 100% impossible. But I think the question, at least for me, it raises an interest. It's like a koan. It raises an interesting koan for me, i.e., what is Zen in my life? The Zen of a layperson is almost unrecognizable from the Zen in a Japanese monastery, or the Zen at the Mount Baldy Zen Center, or the Zen here at the Bodhidharma Zendo in Vienna. So what is Zen in your life? What is it? What is your one person lineage all about? I ask myself this at least intensely 2, 3, 4 times a week. Because when I came off the mountain, when I left the Mount Baldy Zen Center, I was both heartbroken and lost and really excited to start like the real practice, which I think dissolves into your life like sutures that dissolve into your skin, stitches, those stitches that dissolve into your skin. I think genuine Zen in a life is probably not there. It's probably invisible. And that's one of the reasons why I think this fish is so slippery. It's so slippery. The slipperiness is shaped like a fish. The fish is not slippery. The essence is slipperiness. Because when you're, let's say, manifesting Zen in real life, what I think is happening is attention, full attention is being paid. Whether it's in Japan, in the great care that they take with every aspect of, say, a funeral ceremony, or here at the Bodhidharma Zendo, with the great care and attention they give to the different parts of the form that give rise to the body of practice that happens in a meditation hall, or at Mount Baldy Zen Center, where all the rowdy and irascible individuals come together during Samu work practice, for example, and throw a roof on a building. In all these examples, like the spirit of Zen is present, and the spirit, the essence of Zen, I think, is full attention. Giving yourself to the moment or the activity that you're in, the person who's in front of you, the thing you're doing, giving yourself to that. That's Zen practice. So what does that look like in your life? I think it looks like not going through the motions, not doing things. My mentor used to say, look, he said, you don't have to be a great Zen student, just be a Zen student. And he said, the average person basically goes through life like this. I'm going to give 45 to 48% of myself to the world, and I'm going to expect to get back like 55 to 52% from the world. And he said, just be a Zen student and reverse that. Give 55, 60% to the world. Every time, give more of yourself than you're getting back. Give 60%, get 40 back. Give 60%, give 40 back. Just give more to the world. Give more of your attention. Meet the moment. Come out of yourself, out of your head, out of your patterns, right? Your habits, your fear structure. Come out of your conventional mind and meet the moment spontaneously and completely. I think that that's the essence of Zen. Whether you're in a stuffy monastery in some foreign land, in a mountain somewhere, or you're in a cool, hip Zen center in a big, busy urban setting, whatever the case, that spirit of Zen is total giving, or giving as much as you can, meeting the moment, coming forward, up out of yourself into the situation with an open heart and as much of a full attention spirit as you can bring. I hope this video didn't stink. I'm so sorry. It's been a weird day for me. I got thrown off. When I found this old notebook from Japan, where we went to these monasteries. I was learning Japanese here. Daijoubu, that means okay. Kekko desu, that means I'm okay. Onakaga, sukimashita, I'm hungry. Sukimashita means I'm hungry. Sumimasen, that means excuse me, can I have your attention? Sumimasen. I was gonna go study in Japan. I was gonna go do a whole monastic training round. Jane, kampai, toast. I was learning Japanese in Los Angeles, and I've got all these notes in here. It's about things to do for my Immigration Bureau of Japan, about a certificate of eligibility, and I wound up in Austria instead. But I was really taken back down memory lane today when I found that and that notebook, and I started thinking about my time in Japan and how different it's been from my Zen time in Austria, and how different my Zen time in Austria is from my Zen time in California. So I don't know what the future of Zen is. I don't even know what the future of this video is, except to say that if you want to support this channel having a future, you can do so here at patreon.com/JosanJackHobner. You can also do like a one-time donation or a few-time or many-time donation through PayPal, and there's a link in the video description below. You can also just hit like, hit subscribe, and hit notifications. Okay, it's been really rainy lately. Weirdly, I mean, I started this week 2 days ago with this rickety, clumsy air conditioning unit, sticking the tube out the window. And today I'm wearing my hat, a sweater, I've got a scarf, and my winter coat. So it's like been hot, it's been cold. I'm reading about the past in my journal. I don't know what to tell you, except I'll see you next time.